The camera panned across the penthouse ballroom of the Langford Financial Tower, a glittering skyline shimmering behind 100-foot glass walls. Waiters in tuxedos served champagne, billionaires murmured, journalists whispered. But all eyes were fixed on just one couple. At the center of the grand atrium, beneath a crystal chandelier as wide as a swimming pool, stood the unlikeliest duo Wall Street had ever celebrated. She was 60, legendary, relentless, and until recently feared. Vivian Langford, CEO of Langford Financial Holdings, and the man standing beside her, hand in hand, unapologetically confident in his midnight blue tuxedo. He was 25, Ethan Cole, young, unknown, dismissed. Until tonight. Because tonight, he wasn't just her date, he was her equal. Now co-chair of a billion-dollar investment empire they had rebuilt together. A golden boss banner hung across the ballroom entrance. Annual legacy awards, honoring power couples who changed the game. Ethan didn't flinch as cameras flashed, as murmurs rippled through the elite crowd. But if anyone had seen him a year ago, alone, broke, doubting every decision, they would have never believed this night would come. And yet, it all started with one moment, one decision. One night that flipped everything. Now let's rewind. This is not your typical love story. It's ambition, it's risk, it's scandal. And it's the story of how a 25-year-old man walked into a war zone of corporate politics and walked out with the heart of the woman everyone else feared. You'll see how Ethan Cole challenged the rules at his first job, the real reason Vivian Langford noticed him in a room full of Ivy League climbers, the night that shook the company, and how it made them closer than ever. The betrayals, the tabloids, the boardroom fireworks, and the empire they now rule together. Pay close attention. There's a brief quiz at the end asking, how many times did you hear the name Ethan Cole? It's just for fun. Get it right within 7 days for a chance at our shout-out post. Watching late? Answer anyway, we might still surprise you. Drop a comment, hit like, subscribe now, and turn on the bell for more true-style stories about ambition, power, and love where you least expect it. Now let's go back to the day Ethan Cole walked into Langford Tower for the first time. The Langford Financial headquarters sat like a steel fortress in the middle of Manhattan. 80 floors of cold glass, sharp edges, and sharper minds. It was a place where interns cried in elevators, where CEOs barked orders through 3 layers of assistants, and where whispers could kill careers. Ethan Cole stepped through the revolving doors in an off-the-rack navy suit, gripping a worn-out leather folder. He had graduated magna cum laude, but not from a school anyone here cared about. No Ivy, no legacy, just talent, raw and unproven. Day one felt like a test he wasn't supposed to pass. Executives towered over him in polished shoes. Associates whispered about the boy in the clearance tie. But Ethan didn't flinch. He took notes, asked questions no one expected, and finished his first assignment before lunch. By week 2, he had found something everyone else missed. A miscalculation buried deep in a forecast model for a billion-dollar client. When he flagged it, his supervisor brushed him off. But she didn't. Vivian Langford, the 60-year-old CEO with a reputation for making grown men sweat, summoned him to her office. Her assistant had said, 5 minutes only. He stayed for 27. Vivian had silver-streaked hair pulled into a tight knot, piercing eyes that missed nothing, and a voice that could chill air molecules. But that day, Ethan didn't stammer or shrink. He explained his findings clearly, confidently. And for the first time in years, Vivian Langford smiled at an intern. Over the next few months, Ethan's name began appearing in rooms it didn't belong. His insights earned him quiet respect. His late nights earned him unspoken favor. But with attention came resentment. Some whispered he was her pet. Others called him reckless, said he didn't understand how the game is played. But one night, everything changed. And after that night, no one would ever call him just an intern again. It was a Friday. But not just any Friday. Langford Financial was preparing for a make-or-break acquisition. The type of deal that made headlines or ended careers. That afternoon, a whisper moved through the halls like smoke. Vivian Langford would personally attend the internal pitch review. Unannounced. No warning, no slides, just questions. Ethan Cole had stayed late every night that week, combing through the target company's financials. He wasn't invited to the main room. But he wasn't the kind to wait for an invitation. He stood just outside the frosted glass boardroom, tablet in hand, eyes scanning numbers no one else had caught. Inside, tension clung to the air. Executives stumbled over projections. One partner completely blanked on a valuation metric. Vivian said nothing. She just stared, pen in hand, expression unreadable. And then, she stood. "This entire pitch is based on faulty assumptions," she said. "Who verified the forward growth indicators?" Silence. No one moved. No one spoke. From the corner of the room, Ethan's voice cut through like a blade. "I did." The room turned. 20 executives, all older than him, spun in disbelief. Ethan stepped through the door like it was his. He walked to the screen, tapped 3 times on his tablet, and mirrored it. "I recalculated the customer retention models. The original forecast missed a 12% drop-off hidden in the trailing churn. Here's what that does to the 5-year outlook." Vivian didn't blink. She just watched. And when he finished, 10 minutes, no notes, just numbers and facts, she said something no one expected. "Everyone else out," she said. That night, the boardroom emptied, except for her and him. The city lights shimmered against the glass as they sat across from each other, no longer boss and intern, just 2 minds unpacking strategy over cooling coffee. Vivian Langford, Queen of Wall Street, had seen thousands of analysts. She didn't remember most of their names, but she would never forget Ethan Cole. "I've built this empire by knowing when to trust a gut feeling," she said, leaning back in her chair. "And my gut says, you're not afraid of anyone in this building." "I'm not," Ethan replied. "And you think you see things I don't?" "I know I do," he said, steady as ever. She smiled again, not polite this time, something warmer, something dangerous. "Then let's see what you can really do." From that night, everything changed. Ethan wasn't just a voice in the back anymore. He was on strategy calls, whispering into her ear at board meetings, revising pitches she hadn't even seen yet. Their connection was undeniable, but never discussed. At least, not yet. To the outside world, Vivian was still the CEO no one crossed, and Ethan was the rising prodigy people couldn't figure out. Was he a genius? Was he her weakness? Or was it both? 6 weeks after that boardroom night, a new headline hit the press. Langford Financial appoints youngest VP in firm's history, Ethan Cole, 25. The backlash was instant. Whispers became accusations. Tabloids called him the golden intern. Competitors hinted at scandal. But Vivian didn't flinch. She never addressed the rumors. And Ethan? He buried himself in work, restructuring portfolios, brokering deals even senior partners couldn't close. Their bond only deepened. It was the late nights that sealed it. Strategy calls that bled into whiskey-soaked laughter. Debates that ended in quiet understanding. Vivian began trusting him with more than just numbers, and Ethan saw something in her no one else did. Not the titan, not the dragon, but the woman. The one who hadn't taken a vacation in 12 years. The one who read poetry at 3 a.m. when she couldn't sleep. The one who hadn't let anyone close until now. One snowy evening in December, as Manhattan glittered in white and gold, Vivian invited Ethan to her private loft. Just to review a merger, she'd said. But that night, no papers were opened. Instead, 2 glasses of scotch sat untouched between them as silence hung in the air. She spoke first. "I was never supposed to let someone like you in." Ethan looked at her. Not the legend, not the CEO, just her. "I wasn't supposed to fall for someone like you," he said. But neither moved. Not yet. And then, she reached out. One hand, no fanfare, no drama, just a truth, quiet and electric. And when their fingers touched, nothing would ever be the same again. Not for Vivian Langford, not for Ethan Cole, and not for the empire they were about to build together. 3 weeks after that snowy night in the loft, everything at Langford Financial felt different. Vivian Langford still walked the halls like a storm in heels. She still crushed lazy ideas with a glance, still commanded global markets with a few words, but something had shifted. In the way she paused when Ethan entered the room. In the silence that passed between them when others spoke nonsense. In the way her fingers brushed his shoulder just a little too long when passing behind his chair. Rumors flared, louder, sharper now. The press had always watched her. But now they hunted him too. And inside the company, the resentment boiled. One morning, Ethan Cole arrived to find his office door jammed shut. Someone had slipped glue into the lock. A childish prank, but a clear message: you don't belong here. Vivian offered to launch an internal investigation. He refused. "Let them come," Ethan said. "I didn't get here because it was easy." Vivian nodded, pride flickering in her eyes, but she knew something bigger was coming. The board had tolerated Ethan as an anomaly. A sharp kid, maybe even a prodigy, but when whispers reached them that the CEO, their 60-year-old war queen, might be emotionally compromised, That wasn't just gossip. That was threat level red. And the ambush came fast. Vivian was summoned to an emergency board session. No agenda, no heads up, just 12 old men and one ruthless woman from legal. All seated, all waiting, all ready. Vivian said Charles Greer, the lead board member with a penchant for power plays, "We're concerned. You've appointed a 25-year-old with no C-suite experience to oversee 3 verticals. And now, we're hearing that your relationship with him may not be entirely professional." Vivian didn't blink, but her knuckles whitened around the armrest. "I don't need your approval to recognize talent," she said, voice like steel. "This isn't about talent," Greer hissed. "It's about ethics, about optics." "Is it?" she snapped. "Or is it about the fact that Ethan's better than every overpaid relic in this room?" Silence. Then came the threat. "Step down, quietly. Let someone else steer this ship, or we vote you out." Vivian sat still for a moment. Then she stood and said 5 words that would make Wall Street history. "Call the shareholders. Let's vote." What followed was a corporate war the press dubbed the coup at Langford Tower. Stocks dipped, headlines screamed, anonymous sources leaked intimate details, real or imagined, about late nights between the CEO and the boy genius. But Vivian didn't flinch, and Ethan? He went to work. While they whispered scandal, he crafted a new growth model that pulled in 3 major investors. While they mocked his age, he traveled to Tokyo and brought back a $2.7 billion fund no one thought was in play. And when Vivian returned to the boardroom 3 weeks later, flanked by 3 new proxy voters and holding a majority stake, no one said a word. She didn't fire anyone. She didn't need to. They just fell in line, because fear had always worked. But now, she had something more powerful. Loyalty. And Ethan Cole. They made it official 6 months later. Not with a press release, not with an Instagram post, but with a quiet wedding at her vineyard in Napa. Just 24 guests. No photographers, no media. Just 2 people who had survived everything the world threw at them and walked out stronger. Vivian wore a gray silk suit with no veil. Ethan wore the same midnight tux from that ballroom night. They exchanged vows under a canopy of olive trees. No one interrupted. No one dared. Together, they built something the world couldn't explain. Langford Cole Global became the most agile fund on the planet. Ruthless, innovative, and impossible to predict. She taught him how to weaponize silence. He taught her how to feel again. She handled mergers like a queen. He handled people like a poet. And at every gala, every summit, every stage, they stood side by side, not as mentor and prodigy, not as CEO and intern, but as equals. 1 year after their wedding, Forbes named them the most powerful couple in finance. Their photo, black and white, unsmiling, hand in hand, hung in the Langford Cole lobby, right above the elevator. Some said it still made interns nervous. Others said it gave them hope. And Ethan? He just smiled when asked how they made it work. "She taught me how to fight," he said. "But love, that was the part I taught her." 2 years into their reign, the Langford Cole empire was untouchable. Their combined vision turned stagnant portfolios into gold. Rivals tried to copy their strategies, but never their timing. Their firm wasn't just rich, it was revered, feared, imitated. And yet cracks don't start loud. They whisper. It began with a quiet email. 1 line. "Someone's been leaking acquisition data." Vivian Langford didn't panic. She was used to threats, market sabotage, corporate espionage, hostile takeovers. But this felt different, too close, too specific. And when the internal audit team confirmed it, yes, proprietary documents were being accessed from a secure account, her chest tightened. The breach hadn't come from outside, it came from inside. And the login? Ethan Cole. Vivian didn't confront him immediately. Instead, she watched. She observed his schedule, tracked meetings, even requested security footage from the firm's data room. And what she saw stunned her. Ethan wasn't hiding anything. In fact, he looked the same. Same meticulous habits, same late nights, same black coffee, no sugar. But something was off. He was distracted, distant. And when she finally asked him, one rainy Thursday evening as they stood in the empty conference hall overlooking the Hudson, he didn't deny the breach. He didn't even look surprised. "I know someone's using my credentials," Ethan said calmly, "but it's not me." "Then who?" Vivian demanded, arms folded. Ethan hesitated, just for a second. "Then, my former assistant, from Tokyo. I caught her downloading files weeks ago. I thought I handled it quietly, but maybe I was wrong." Vivian narrowed her eyes. "Why didn't you tell me?" Ethan looked away. "Because I didn't want to be the liability." That word hit her harder than she expected. He had always been fearless, unapologetic. But now she saw it. The weight, the doubt, the pressure of being him. The boy who climbed the tower and touched the throne, only to constantly prove he belonged. Vivian walked away that night without saying a word. And for the first time in years, Ethan didn't follow. The fallout was slow, but poisonous. The board wanted blood. Not Ethan's, but Vivian's. Again. "How many more secrets are you hiding for him?" Greer asked coldly. She didn't respond, because she was beginning to ask herself the same question. A week later, Vivian returned home late, well past midnight. The lights were on. Ethan stood in the kitchen, staring at the marble countertop. "I'm stepping down," he said quietly. Vivian froze. "What are you talking about?" "I mean it," Ethan said. "You built Langford before me. You'll run it after me. But right now, the press, the board, the market, they see me as the risk." "You're not," she said. "But I feel like one," he replied. Silence filled the space between them. Vivian Langford, the woman who survived a male-dominated Wall Street, who clawed her way into every room that told her no, was now facing her most impossible dilemma. Love the man who changed her world, or protect the empire she built before he existed. And she couldn't do both. That night, Ethan Cole left Manhattan. No press release, no scandal, just a single internal memo. Ethan Cole to pursue new strategic ventures outside of Langford Holdings. But everyone knew what it meant. Whispers turned into headlines. Fairy tale ends at Langford Tower. Did love cost the queen her king? Vivian said nothing. She worked harder. Later, colder. But behind closed doors, those who knew her best, her housekeeper, her driver, her head of legal, noticed the shift. She stopped reading poetry, she canceled the vineyard trip, and she began sleeping in her office again. Meanwhile, Ethan disappeared. No social media, no interviews, no startup launch. Just silence. Until 1 year later, at the World Finance Summit in Singapore, a surprise announcement shook the floor. Cole Vanguard Group, backed by $12 billion in startup capital. And at the center, Ethan Cole. He was older now, sharper, still handsome, still composed, but the spark in his eyes was no longer ambition. It was something else. Survival, maybe? Pain, perhaps. He didn't take shots at Langford Financial, didn't mention Vivian. But when asked by a Bloomberg reporter if he'd ever go back, he said only, "I never left where it mattered." Vivian watched the broadcast from her penthouse, alone, wine untouched. Her boardroom was stronger than ever. Her empire hadn't crumbled. But something inside her had. She clicked pause on the interview, stared at Ethan's frozen image on screen, and whispered, "You were never the liability." 2 years passed. Langford Financial expanded into Dubai, Zurich, and São Paulo. The firm weathered 3 market dips and posted record-breaking Q4 numbers in back-to-back quarters. To the outside world, Vivian Langford had never been stronger. But insiders knew something had shifted. She still dominated every room, but no longer lingered in them. She still made ruthless calls, but now took long walks afterward, alone, through the echoing corridors of Langford Tower. And when she spoke in meetings, she often paused, like someone was supposed to answer. Someone who wasn't there. Ethan Cole's name wasn't uttered anymore. It didn't have to be. He was everywhere. In the systems he rebuilt, the deals he secured, the talent he groomed. He had become a ghost with a golden touch. And in the financial world, ghosts never rest. Then came the Colorado Summit, a quiet, high-stakes retreat attended by CEOs of top 10 global investment firms. 3 days in the Rockies, off the record, no press, just strategy, secrets, and inevitable alliances. Vivian almost didn't go, but she did. And on day 2, as she stepped into the fireside conference room for the Tech Portfolio Roundtable, her stride paused. There he was, Ethan Cole, standing beside the CEO of Crestmark Capital, hands in pockets, listening calmly as a partner pitched a decentralized hedge strategy. His hair was slightly longer now, his jaw sharper, his presence more controlled, more dangerous. He looked right at her, didn't smile, didn't look away. And that was worse than anything. The room tensed. Even billionaires have gossip. Everyone knew their history. No one knew what they were about to witness. Ethan walked over first. No hesitation. "Vivian," he said, voice even. She nodded once. "Mr. Cole?" The temperature in the room dropped, but neither blinked. Later that evening, after the panels ended and the lodge grew quiet, Vivian stood alone on the terrace, overlooking a frozen lake. The cold bit at her cheeks. Her coat hung loose. Footsteps behind her. Then silence. She didn't turn. "You could have told me you'd be here," she said. "I didn't think it mattered," Ethan replied. "It always mattered." A pause. Then, I never blamed you, he said, voice softer now. I blamed myself for needing your protection when I should have stood on my own. She turned then, face to face again. 2 years of distance collapsed into inches. You were never a risk, she whispered. But you couldn't say that out loud, he replied. Vivian nodded. I was trying to keep the company safe. And I was trying to keep you safe, Ethan said. From the headlines, from the doubt, from me. They stood there in silence, the night thick with unsaid things. Until Vivian spoke again. I haven't been back to the vineyard. I haven't touched scotch since Tokyo, he said. She smiled, just a flicker. And then, as if neither could stop it, they laughed. Not the polished kind, the real kind. The kind they hadn't heard in 2 years. That night they didn't talk business. No deals, no boardrooms, no questions. Just firelight, soft jazz in the background, and 2 people finally out of the spotlight. I started over, you know, Ethan said, sipping hot tea instead of bourbon. New company, new model. But nothing's felt like that first war room with you. Vivian stared into the fire. I built a fortress, she said quietly. And I hated how empty it felt when you left. He looked at her, eyes steady. Then let's build something else. The next morning, before the summit closed, an announcement swept the lodge like wildfire. Langford Financial and Cole Vanguard Group to form new strategic alliance. No merger, no buyout, just partnership. Unwritten, unshakable, unapologetic. And just like that, they were back. Not as intern and CEO, not as headlines and scandal, but as fire and steel, forged by everything that tried to break them. A year later, they stood again in front of cameras, older, wiser, still unshakably connected. Vivian Langford, now 63, wore charcoal gray. Ethan Cole, now 28, had traded sharp edges for precision. They spoke side by side at the Global Finance Forum in Dubai. And when a reporter asked, "What changed after everything you went through?" Vivian smiled. "We stopped protecting our empires from each other," she said, "and started protecting each other instead." And Ethan? He reached for her hand. No hesitation this time. "I built a company," he said. "But with her, I built a life." 3 years later, Langford Cole Global wasn't just a firm. It was a movement. Startups didn't dream of Google investments anymore. They dreamed of Vivian Langford's nod or an Ethan Cole term sheet. Their alliance redefined the investment world, merging old-school instinct with next-gen speed. Companies they backed didn't just grow, they exploded. And their partnership? It silenced every cynic who once called them a scandal. But behind the boardroom brilliance, something else was happening. Something slower, something deeper. Vivian Langford began saying no more often. No to back-to-back red-eyes. No to 3-hour negotiation wars. And yes to morning coffee in the garden. Yes to saying Ethan's name in interviews. Yes to peace. Because for the first time in her life, she didn't have to prove anything. Not to the board, not to the market, not to herself. She had already done the impossible. Led, won, lost, loved, and led again. And Ethan? He no longer walked in anyone's shadow. He had created a firm that operated like a startup, but hit like a legacy brand. He coached young founders, took meetings barefoot on the beach, still sharp, still hungry, but different now. Grounded, whole. Because loving her had taught him something no business school ever could. Legacy isn't what you leave behind. It's who you walk beside while you build. One October morning, Vivian called a press conference at Langford Tower. Her first in 6 months. Reporters speculated everything from retirement to a medical diagnosis to a hostile takeover. What they got was something else. Vivian stepped up to the podium in a cream blazer. No notes, no teleprompter. "I've been called a lot of things," she began, smiling. "CEO, dragon, ice queen, mentor, wife." She paused, "But today I'd like to add one more title, Chairwoman Emeritus." The room gasped. Vivian Langford was stepping down, but not walking away. Because right behind her, waiting in the wings with that familiar calm, was the successor the world didn't see coming. Not a new CEO, not a partner, but someone smaller, younger. A girl no older than 6 with Ethan's eyes and Vivian's fierce, pointed chin. Ethan stepped up, holding her hand. "We named her Mira," he said. "It means peace in Latin, something we never had until we found each other." The cameras didn't flash right away. They were stunned. Every journalist sat frozen, blinking at the scene. Vivian Langford, the titan who once ruled Wall Street with an iron jaw, now smiled down at a little girl in pink flats, her legacy etched not in IPOs or hostile takeovers, but in trust. In blood. In family. They didn't just raise a daughter, they raised a new kind of empire. The Langford Coal Foundation quietly launched the next year, investing in women-led startups, funding financial literacy programs for young men and women from underserved communities, and endowing scholarships for non-Ivy grads who, like Ethan, had brilliance but no connections. They didn't plaster their names on everything. They didn't need to. The world already knew who they were. In the final year of her public career, Vivian Langford gave one last commencement speech at her alma mater, Stanford. The students leaned forward, expecting strategy. Instead, she gave them this. When I was 35, I thought power was about control. When I was 50, I thought power was about ownership. And now at 63, I know the truth. Power is about partnership. Find someone who sees your flaws as opportunities, who challenges you, protects you, and builds with you, even when the world says it's impossible. She smiled at the crowd. And if he's 25 years younger and doesn't blink when the world underestimates him, marry him. The audience roared. And somewhere in the back, Ethan stood. No spotlight, no speech, just clapping like a man who never stopped believing in the woman the world once feared. So now, it's your turn. If this story moved you, comment below what moment hit you the hardest and answer the quiz at the end. Get it right within 7 days for a chance at our shout-out post. Watching late? Answer anyway. We might still surprise you. And if you love this kind of emotional story, the next one is already waiting for you. Click the video that will show on your screen soon. We'll meet you there. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you never miss what happens next. Quiz. How many times did you hear the name Ethan Cole?